Today I'm taking a moment before Council to address the issue of anti-Black racism. Anti-Black racism includes policies and practices that have been embedded in our institutions and reflect and reinforce beliefs, attitudes, prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination. It is directed at people of African descent and rooted in the unique history of enslavement and colonization. To members of the African Nova Scotian community, I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. For you, anti-Black racism is not a definition, it can be a lived experience. But racism has been cast into an especially bright public light in recent weeks. The horrific killing of George Floyd by a police officer in Minneapolis has ignited a massive protest movement around the world. Among the many sad facts of his death is that its shocking brutality did not come as a surprise to many. After all, George Floyd's name joins a litany of Black lives lost at the hands of police and violence. This time it was captured on camera, clear to all who could bear to watch. George Floyd was murdered in broad daylight. Last Monday, thousands of Halifax residents, all ages, backgrounds, and experiences, took a knee on Spring Garden Road for 8 minutes and 45 seconds. The amount of time George Floyd lay on the asphalt begging for breath with a police officer's knee pressed firmly on his neck. I was there that evening, as were many of you, in solidarity with community members, particularly African Nova Scotians. I heard the voices of a growing chorus of allies in the fight against racism and lives lost at the hands of police. Floyd's death feels like a tipping point. Everywhere there is a feeling that this time must be different. From Minneapolis to other cities around the United States and around the world, to Canada and here in Halifax, it is well past time for change. We will be judged, and I believe we will ultimately judge ourselves on our actions. Our city and province have our own history of systemic racism, including anti-Black racism. Race has played a key role in the development of our communities, where people can live, what opportunities and services are provided, where children have been allowed to go to school, and how police have managed our streets. We have a responsibility to own this history, to acknowledge it, and the hurt and the injustice that it has caused. The responsibility to change it rests with us individually and collectively. There is a time for protest and for listening, and there is a time for leadership and action. Our city has taken positive steps. I'm grateful for the work done by Tracy Jones-Grant and her team in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. This includes the African Nova Scotian Affairs Integration Office, which was established as part of the Africville settlement a decade ago. Our Public Safety Office, which you may know is no longer housed inside Halifax Regional Police, have been critical to implementing a safety strategy that relies on a broad approach to building strong, resilient, and caring communities for all. I'm proud that Chief Dan Kinsella apologized to the community when Dr. Scott Wortley's work made it abundantly clear that African Nova Scotians were inappropriately targeted for street checks. I'm pleased that these practices were ordered stopped, and the Chief is leading the response work through a proposed action plan. I'm gratified to see a greater diversity on the Board of Police Commissioners, the civilian oversight authority for policing in the Halifax region. And so we have made some progress, but thousands of people would not have gathered on Spring Garden Road or Grand Parade or Africville in recent days if it were enough. How else can we make a difference? Through the Police Commission, we need to see sustained progress on the Wortley Report recommendations of last year. I know from speaking with councillors and others who serve on the Commission, I know that they share this view. Police force leadership here have worked hard to build one of the most diverse police forces in Canada. Now, this work must continue until we see a broad cross-section of our community, including more African Nova Scotians, within the force's highest ranks. Issues such as police body cameras and the purchase of an armored police vehicle will need to be fully considered. And we must ask, are they needed? Will they help or harm? Are they in the broad public interest? Are they a reasonable public expenditure over other areas of need in this municipality? This council will consider these issues as we finish our budget, hopefully today, and I trust that everyone around this virtual chamber will do so with compassion, care, and oversight. You know, it's been said, don't tell me your vision, show me your budget. While money is not the key measure of success here, this municipality must commit to appropriately resourcing and doing the additional work that is needed to force real change. Diversity and inclusion, public safety, youth programming, library services, hiring systems, procurement, planning and development. The work of our city should strengthen the fabric of communities and help more people find more opportunities. Even as we deal with the financial impacts of COVID, these programs must be reinforced and strengthened. As we endorse a social lens on our council decisions, now is the time to look at major projects as well to ensure that we're including the voices and the skills of communities that are underrepresented. Major projects should highlight African Nova Scotian history and culture for sure, but they should also create economic opportunity for Black people through comprehensive community benefits programs. Now, many of us may think we know more than we actually do about the experience of African Nova Scotians. Around this council chamber, there is only one of us who really does. I want to work to ensure that we have more diverse political representation in the future. I've also spoken to the CAO, and we have asked for a public council presentation on anti-Black racism. I believe that this will help set an appropriate context as we work to make our shared future better than our imperfect past. As we deal with the dual crises of COVID and climate change, we must also reflect deeply and resolve to fight the blight of racism. Our critical eye will certainly look to the South and around the world, but our gaze must first focus on racial inequality, injustice, and racism here at home. Thank you.